During the deer hunting season, I hunt all day long. After hours of sitting still and keeping my eyes sharp in the Minnesota November, I get cold and can start to shiver. Then sometimes I see a deer, and as I wait for that cleanest shot possible, my heart begins to pick up speed and my eyes can become watery. What I'm getting at is I'm more accurate on a paper target than in the actual elements. I'm an ethical sportsman, though. I do not want to wound deer, causing them to die painfully, or feed coyotes because they got away from me. That said, I use this modern sporting rifle, a rifle many of the people not in the gun culture call an assault rifle. I use this DPMS 308 AP4 that I purchased during one of my deployments to Iraq. It holds 20 rounds of ammunition, it's extremely accurate, and automatically reloads itself after firing a shell. With this tool, I feel comfortable humanely harvesting deer, keeping our roads safer from deer accidents, and keeping the coyote population in control are added benefits. If my first round doesn't immediately kill the animal, I do not have to think about working in action to reload my firearm. I do not have to take my eyes off of the situation in front of me, and with a magazine capacity over twice my granddad's .30-30, I'm able to sneak into the woods without extra bullets jingling around in my pocket just in case I do see our party hunting limit. There are more reasons a modern sporting rifle has become so popular with the younger generation of sportsmen and women. Most deal with accuracy, reliability, ease of use and maintainability, comfortable ergonomics, and for some, myself included, the resemblance they have to what many men and women carried during their time in service. So that brings me to my first point on this topic. While the media and their beloved president are trying to call these rifles weapons of war, we're all being lied to. A true AK-47 will cycle all of its bullets with a single 3.5-second squeeze of the trigger. The modern M16s and M4s, which resemble in shape this modern sporting rifle, can shoot a tri-burst of rounds to effectively kill enemy combatants with a single squeeze of the trigger. Any AR-type rifle on the market today only operates in a semi-automatic fashion and cannot be converted to shoot in any other way. Every bullet you want to send downrange requires its own squeeze of the trigger. Your brain must decide for every bullet. The same is true for old shotguns like the Browning A5 or the Remington 1100, guns that have been accepted by Americans for well over 100 years. Furthermore, I'm from the area and I would like to know how many of our citizens work for companies like DPMS, Element Arms, or Federal Cartridge, and countless others. Before we hurriedly just start passing laws that force the doors shut on these places, please check what these businesses have paid in property taxes and understand the revenue they have generated for our communities. Our economy is growing in spite of Obama, and I do believe that he, being the greatest gun salesman of all time, greatly contributes to that fact. Now let's dissect a few of the scary-looking parts of a modern sporting rifle. According to city ordinance, we're not allowed to openly carry rifles or shotguns within St. Cloud city limits. However, I've been informed that having the disassembled parts is okay. This is a 6-position telescopic buttstock. Not only does it allow this rifle to be used by myself at 6'8", as well as smaller individuals, but look at this. If I'm sitting in a tree while deer hunting, I can effectively take good aim to both my left and to my right. I wish the rifle was together. This is the pistol grip. It doesn't change the functions of the rifle whatsoever. However, it adds a tremendous amount of comfort while holding it. There is a correlation between ergonomics and accuracy. The more comfortable you are, the less likely you are to miss your intended target, possibly ricocheting into an undesirable path. If you ask me, it should be considered a safety feature. So speaking about safety, this 2-position selector lever, while on safe, completely locks the trigger. It's a design easily modified to accommodate left-handed shooters. Eugene Stoner got it right when he designed it. It is truly based on common sense. Meanwhile, guns of yesteryear, for example, Grandpa's Winchester lever action 30-30, utilize your thumb, slowly releasing the hammer while you squeeze the trigger. This sets that rifle to a condition called safe. However, tests have shown that that rifle can go off if it's snagged on a branch or dropped just right, or if your thumb slips off the hammer when making that rifle safe. Here's one that the media hates. They claim it keeps cops from knowing where a shooter is. It's a flash hider. There are many different designs and some are better suited for different purposes, but they all largely serve several purposes. A, it protects the crown of the muzzle, keeping the barrel accurate longer. B, it reduces muzzle flash for low light hunting of varmints like our growing coyote population. C, if you shoot prone, that's from your belly, it helps to keep dust and sand from spraying off the ground and back into your eyes. And D, it helps direct the recoil of the rifle straight back for better target acquisition. Now they want to deprive us of these. They give them names to incite fear and persuade the public. Uh-oh, he's got an assault rifle. It's gonna commit a crime, commit an assault. On January 15th, KSTP interviewed a Minneapolis police lieutenant. Last year, they took 750 guns from criminals off the Minneapolis streets. 750 guns. Out of 750 guns, 10 of them were rifles. So please fill me in. Why are they attacking rifles when they only account for 1 in 75 guns seized by police? And now the media is back to claiming it was for handguns used at Sandy Hook. So why rifles? I'll tell you why. Because if they are successful in their unconstitutional attempt to take these away from the minority of Americans who own them, i.e. hunters or recreational rifle shooters, there is no statistic anyone will be able to fall back on to argue them going after handguns, and that is their agenda. Make no mistake, they want your guns. They are determined to kill our Second Amendment, death from 1,000 scratches if they have to. Many on the left will retort that confiscation is not part of their agenda. Oh, really? Why then would you want us to register our guns? History has shown that every mass registration is followed by mass confiscation. What is clear are several states, including Minnesota, now have proposals to get all gun owners' names onto lists. New York proposes that its law-abiding gun owners buy an insurance plan to cover up to $1 million of damages in case their residents' firearms are used in a malicious way. Several states are pushing to allow police to annually enter one's home to make sure the homeowner's guns are being stored safe. And then there's the Minnesota Omnibus Bill, SF 205, which among other terrible things states that private firearm transfers go through a licensed firearm dealer. And yet they sugarcoat it, saying that this will reduce straw purchasing or closes a gun show loophole. No. What it will do is make Grandpa a felon for handing down his 30-30 when he gets old, and it'll make it illegal for you to temporarily sell Grandpa's 30-30 to your friend when you're in a pinch because of Obama's economy. These laws do absolutely nothing as far as creating tougher penalties for gun crimes. They only affect the law-abiding. Maybe this is part of the left's tactic, to make people soon say, gee, well, they passed all these new gun laws and we still have all this crime. Maybe we should support disarmament. Maybe it's another tactic of theirs to just simply harass and confuse and pester us into our own submissions. Well, I don't know about you, but I am not buying what they're selling. So it's up to us. It is our duty to not give them 1 inch. Mail those letters, write those emails, call them up, and show up at their offices. Let them know that their career path, their livelihood, and their financial security rests on whether or not they represent you. Be active. There are too many people out there saying, well, maybe we don't need to have 30-round magazines. Listen, it's not about needs, it's about rights. Talk to these people. Explain to them that begins the slippery slope. If we shouldn't have 30-round magazines, should we be able to have 20, 10, HF 243 calls for a 7-round limit here in Minnesota. Now the left knows many of these bills won't get passed this year. So what's the purpose of proposing them? It's to get you and I better used to the idea of gun control in America. Like the death from 1,000 scratches, they are okay with a long time frame. And as they lay in wait for the next tragedy to unfold, like rats waiting for scraps to fall off the table, people like you and me will go back to work. We'll speak out less and go to less rallies. And they have time to feed us more political bullshit, lies, and selective stories on their news channels. And someday they'll say, gosh, if the guy just had 7 rounds in his gun instead of 8, and they'll release a poll showing increasing acceptance.
Don't sugarcoat things, huh?
545 men and women decide what is best for you and me, but thankfully, at least the last time I checked, the Constitution says we the people, not we the government. And that time that our Constitution's enemies lay in wait, that's time that we have too, so do something. A year ago, I kept to myself. The left was in flames over gay rights and the pro-choice movement. I wasn't for it, but I didn't go out of my way to stop it. It's not an issue to me, although I do feel really bad for the 55+ million children that were deprived life, something that is a right the government is supposed to protect, the right to life, liberty, and happiness. But last year, I was quiet. I certainly didn't think I'd be standing in front of my beautiful courthouse today waving my hunting rifle around at an event that I'd created, but here I am. And here you are. We have all said at one point that enough is enough with this lunacy. I've got to do something. Well, we are, and we're going to, and we're not alone. We are raising awareness of the good things that the Tea Party stands for, and we will work to ensure that our next series of representatives better work for us. And we don't have to be afraid. Although some people would like to believe that Obama can just go ahead and order our country's military might for door-to-door confiscation, groups like the Oath Keepers are popping up everywhere. The Oath Keepers are on our side, and whether you fear or love our military, thousands, from the lowest ranking private to the highest ranking officers, have reaffirmed their oaths to uphold the Constitution. There are law enforcement officials on board, and others all uniting, and these men and women would disobey an unlawful order. They would use their best judgment and their own common sense, and never just blindly follow one tyrant's order. So don't ever get worried from the Facebook posts about Black Hawk helicopters or the YouTube videos with armored personnel carriers in America's streets. It's your fellow men and women operating these on our soil, and they alone, not the president, not FEMA Corps or the UN, have power of these vehicles, which we own. But we have an obligation. We need to ensure that America remains the land of milk and honey, and part of that comes from stopping gun violence. While us, the 99.9% of gun owners who will never commit any sort of firearm-related crime, can honestly say we are doing our part, there is always more. If I could give up my gun to save somebody's life, I would, but that's just not feasible. But we can ask ourselves, is my child more likely to be a bad seed than others? Nancy Lanza had warning signs that should have made her question whether or not to have guns and weapons accessible to her child, and she disobeyed them. The least she should have done was to keep her weapons locked up, and that was a mistake she won't be able to make twice. So when you get home, just ask yourself one more time, are you doing all the right things? Obama says if we can save just one person's life, then we have an obligation to try it. Well, success in that sense is not easily measurable, but perhaps our own actions could stop such a tragedy from ever happening. Joe Biden, in his infinite wisdom, is labeling us as fringe extremists. No, Joe, we are the law-abiding gun owners of America. If we were half as dangerous as you and the anti-gunners would have the public believe, well, logic dictates, sir, that there wouldn't be any anti-gunners left.